Hello, welcome to CLEA'S World. I am Clea, and today I will continue sharing some of the information we received from the 25th dimension during my last qhht session with Lorrayne. Before we move forward, I'd like to ask you to please subscribe to my channel, and please do give this video a thumbs up. But most importantly, please do leave me a comment to let me know what you're going through, because I know that people that will be watching this video notice things. And we notice that there's a lot of stuff breaking down around us, things that look very weird that have never been happening before. And so we'd like to know what that looks like in your corner of the universe or the planet or the multiverse, since we are multidimensional beings. Whatever it is that you're experiencing, I would love to see what that is, because again, these are beyond historical times we're going through, and it's good to compare notes. All right, we're going to move forward here. I'm going to be reading questions from the transcript. And when I say Lorrayne, I'm referring to the hypnotist. And when I say me, I'm referring to myself, getting information from the 25th dimension. And these questions are mostly questions I prepared in advance, unless I say otherwise, like it could be a question from Lorrayne or from some of the viewers, because you guys are great. You always have some very smart questions that you come up with. So I love it. I love asking questions from the 25th. All right, Lorrayne, I don't know if Clea is going to ask this question moving forward, but it just popped into my mind since you brought up the 12,000 and they're splitting into 12 to come up with a 144,000 that we're all familiar with. On New Earth, will the projections of the one coalesce back into one essence? So now they did, before I read the answer here, I want to comment on this question. They did already answer this question a long time ago, where they said, yes, the 12,000 are going to, or the 144,000, because we look like we're 144,000 separate people on this planet. We are going to coalesce back into 12,000, because really there's only 12,000, but each of the 12,000 can embody up to 12 bodies at the same time on this planet, to achieve its particular purposes, which might be learning something or finishing a project or whatever it is. And they go more into this, but I just want to give a little premise so you know where we're at if you haven't seen that video, or if you don't remember that video. I don't want to assume. And so she's asking, so what happens? Do we move on as one? Which again, the answer is yes. And we've been told this before, but there is so much more to this. And I have to tell you, as the 25th has told me that I'm one of the 12,000. And I know that some of you watching this are some of the 12,000, because I've actually asked this before. And there's a video about this, so you can go back and look at it from my very last session prior to this one. And basically, if you're anything like me, you probably wondered about this. It's like, so what happens? Now we got 12 people that become one. Whose personality are we going to have? What are we going to look like? Who decides what we look like? What happens when I go visit my mom and this other person, these other 11 people go visit their parents or their friends on the other planets? How does that play? I mean, this has been mind-boggling for me. I'm having a lot of fun with it, but it's also very weird. So I wanted to share all of this with you. Okay. So again, Lorrayne is asking, so will we all coalesce into one? Me. So this is the 25th answering. Yes, and we have answered this question previously, and actually Clea has a follow-up question to this in the section entitled the 12,000 in this particular session, because her question is, so what happens when we go to New Earth? Like Clea has her own family, the other 11 incarnations have their own family. What are we going to do? Go meet each family as one? And they were laughing, like having a belly laugh at this one, because the whole time here, as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, is that going to look like 4 Christmases, you know, where you go meet all the in-laws and your parents, and they're all separated. It's like chaos. So I just thought this was hilarious. All right. Clea has a lot of fun with this one, but yeah, I mean, they can. It's all equal. It's all the same. Basically, it's just accelerated living. If you want to think of it that way, it's just accelerating experiences. Everything is equal, happening at the same time. So really, you could go visit hundreds of families that you had over the last 100 lifetimes, if they are willing, if the people, the essences that played are willing, of course, to know you, to remember you. But assume for a second that you've lived 100 lifetimes here. You've had 100 different families and you've loved them. And they're all hanging out with the aliens, okay? So they're all open to you going to visit them, or maybe they're all, you know, whatever they might be. They remember you. You could go visit them. It's all happening right now, and you will be aware of it on your earth. You'll be aware of it. So yeah, I mean, that's what's going to happen. These 12 incarnations, if they've created, if they have people, like Clay intends to go visit her mom and brother and some of her friends on alien ships, they will want to do the same. And guess what? If they're one, they will be aware of all of them. Claire will be aware of the family that this other incarnation of hers has, and she will feel exactly the same way towards them as her other incarnation did, as she feels about her own family, what she's aware of right now. And therefore, yeah, she just finds herself with 2 families, and they were laughing. And in this case, with 12 families. So yes, that's what's going to happen. They're going to go visit everybody. It's going to be a big reunion. And they were laughing again. But the better question, I mean, the gist of what matters to Clea behind this question is that she didn't want to lose the familiarity that she has with her own family, as in she's going there and now she's 12 different people. And that's not how it's going to work. We are always going somewhere and we are aware of the collective. So it's not exactly as we are here, but at the same time, with your focus, you will know who these people are, and they will mean to you as much as they mean now, more really, because you'll be aware that you are one with them. So you're not going to lose anything. You're not going to be, it's not going to be the equivalent of you going to visit your friend's family. You're actually going to visit your family, and that's how you will feel. Doesn't matter which one of the 12 families belongs to you. You will know exactly what's transpired. You will feel the feelings because it's you. And you basically just multiplied again the number of people in your family that you have that might be hanging out with the aliens. So really, it's not a loss, it's a gain. Claire will feel, it's not that she's going to be more detached from her mother, for example, saying, oh, she's just one of the mothers. They were laughing. She will actually feel towards the others, say the mother of another one of her 12 incarnations. She will feel towards her exactly the same way she feels towards her own mom. So this is actually going to be wonderful. And I am such a huge family person. I am so excited about this that all of a sudden I get like 12 mothers. And I'm going to say maybe the other incarnations, mothers are going to 3D chambers, so we're not going to be going to visit them. But say there's 6 in the group. I'm like, I love this. I've always wanted a bigger family. To me, it's all good. So I'm super excited. Lorrayne, fun. Okay. Once the 12,000 remember on the earth and are more powerful than ever, will their role change, since they could end a situation like we have on old earth instantly without even incarnating on a planet? Will they impose limits on themselves to only work within the confines they've used to date? Me. So we wish to clarify, because this question is actually conflating two different concepts. The 12,000 are essences. At an essence level, we know everything that's going on. We know this is a game. We know what is allowed in the game, how to preserve the game while we fix the game in case there is an imbalance. And so the difference now is that once the 12,000, we have said the vast majority, if not all, down to one, no, maybe, I'm sorry, again, this transcript sometimes goes crazy, the speech to text, and I guess thankfully AI is not nearly as good as we think it is. And so the difference now is that once the 12,000, we have said the vast majority, if not all, down to the last one, no, maybe a handful that's not going to New Earth is going to consciously be aware of being one of the 12,000. And they're going to consciously know the powers that they have. And all of us on New Earth will have infinite power. So the question, we go back to what we have said before, and it's no different for the 12,000. As consciously powerful, what we call gods really, are we going to intervene in things? We could end anything in no time. We could, but we're not going to do this. We're going to learn, observe, and accept. Now, does that mean that should another emergency arise, the 12,000 are not going to do anything? Of course not, because we know when something is getting off balance, it needs to be rebalanced. This is not about the 12,000 and never been about imposing their will. These are systems we set up. These are rules we set up for ourselves. All of us have agreed to them. So in that sense, they will continue doing their job and will continue to do it the way they've done it before. When they do something, they always require support of the people, support of the team. They always give the opportunity to the civilization to recalibrate. Although this is happening, it's going to happen less and less. As we said, we have not changed the rules, but the rules are changing, and the energy, the frequency is changing in the entire multiverse, has been changed. And so in that sense, the 12,000 will continue intervening in the future, what we can call the future. It's just that from New Earth as it is, we're not just going to intervene here and there willy-nilly. We're just going to use the same rules we used before. We're going to be aware of the vibration going on other planets, and the 12,000 will know when to intervene in the way that they've always done. Because when you deal with, even when you have an intervention, it happens at the essence level. And so the essences, if the essences are not interested, just like it happened on old Earth, if the essence is not interested in changing and recalibrating itself, there's nothing you can do about that. This is what we've encountered here. We're not able to recalibrate because the essences were not interested. So nothing is changing in that sense. The difference will be that the consciousness of being that powerful. But really, this is going to be everybody's quote unquote problem on New Earth. We're all going to be powerful. What do we do with that? Nothing. We're going to do nothing with that. We're going to have fun with it, but we're not going to go and intervene in other people's games. We don't want to do that. And there was something here, they refer to the fact, I wanted to explain this in case you haven't seen the previous video. I think it was 2 videos ago. It was the very opening scene of this hypnosis session. So here they're referring to it when they say that the rules, we have not changed the rules, but the rules are changing, the frequency is changing. They were referring to the fact that I felt as basically in the initial visual that they always give me, the initial message, they always give me in a new session. They will show me something that's important for me to know at that time, not just me, everybody to know. And in this last session, they showed me basically I became source again, like I did during my last plant medicine experience. And I saw source giving a spin, let's tap in this spin top. And basically was the source explained to us that it was re-energizing the multiverse. So things are changing everywhere, not just on this planet, not just for New Earth, the entire multiverse is getting like almost a new lease on life because of what's happening. So that's very cool. Lorrayne, thank you. Do the 12,000 have to be incarnated on a planet to be able to act on that planet? Me. So generally speaking, yes, in the sense that that allows you to put your entire focus on that planet as opposed to being focused on another incarnation that you might be dealing with. So in general, yes. Also because we've explained this before, one of the main things that 12,000 do is they recalibrate the frequency, the vibration of entire continents, entire countries, just by being there. And so yes, generally speaking, just one of the things that the 12,000 do, they will incarnate somewhere. And this is the reason why all 12,000 are here right now. But from New Earth, in that sense, you don't really have to. We are so powerful that from New Earth, you will be able to fix the situation. But it doesn't mean this is how we want to do it. You see, it's also part of the game for the 12,000 when they incarnate on a planet. And not only, but the intervention might take multiple lifetimes on that planet. So it might be, again, an experience that the light worker wants to have. So in this sense, we're really not going to change much. But we have described this before. There are no other emergencies in the multiverse right now. So the 12,000 are going to be on vacation for quite a while. Lorraine, thank you. Did the 12,000 have to cut their lives short on other planets to embody on this planet when the alarm was sounded by the watchers? Me. Well, they did, but they didn't have to, of course. But yes, they wanted to. Yes, that's what the 12,000 will do. And so short just means that they wanted their focus elsewhere. And so, yes, they created this, a reason for them to leave or an excuse for them to leave. So early as in, would they have stayed longer? Perhaps if there had been no emergency, yes, they could have. They could have stayed longer, but it doesn't mean that they've left immediately. It doesn't mean that they all showed up on planet Earth at the same time. Some of them might have wanted to live out a few more years or decades in the place where they were because they were working on certain lessons. Again, it's not like a fire, you know, in our 3D reality where you drop everything you're doing and you run in. Time is much more flexible than that. So some, you know, some might have not immediately come, but they did. And again, you can do some work without being on the planet. But at the end of the day, if you have a dire situation like we did, so that there were a few light workers already here, and that's when they started calling in more and more. Eventually, we all got here, but we didn't all get here at the same time. So you don't have to cut your life short or so much shorter than you're like, oh, I was a child, I just incarnated there and all of a sudden I have to leave right away. You don't have to. The 12,000 want to be on standby for these things. It's their choice. They absolutely do not have to. And they don't have to leave immediately either, because again, things don't move as quickly as we think when we think of a fire or an emergency here. Lorraine, thank you. You said that light workers can balance out things, and that we try to do this on planet Earth by collapsing things that would have otherwise still been standing, and by standing up things that would have otherwise collapsed. Can you give us examples of each category? Me. So the light workers collapse. If it had not been for the light workers, this would have been a much more dystopian reality. The dark had many plans that didn't happen because of the light workers stopping them. You know, for example, one of them was AI. The dark has been trying to bring in AI, or what else have they tried bringing in? They've been wanting to depopulate the planet for a long time. All these things have not stood because the team of the light, but also many other essences that were in the middle, they were not interested. And so some of these things have not been let to have the effect, if they had been even started, they've not been led to have the effect that they would have had the light workers not intervened. And a lot of things that have been introduced, like certain diseases that have been introduced, like the plague, for example, it could have wiped out the entire planet, or like wars that were started to wipe out a huge amount of the population. They were messed with, and they were laughing. The light workers got in there and basically did not allow that to go to fruition the way that it was meant to. They also helped stop the nuclear programs, the way that they were developing. The idea was to have this become a new way of doing war using nuclear weapons. That's also been stopped. So this is the kind of stuff that has been stopped because we didn't want it. And as for things that have been set up, how did you phrase it? You said things that are standing, that would have not been standing had it not been for the light workers. The dark, again, wanted to control everything and wanted to accelerate things, like to where we were all in a situation like we think of China, for example. The light workers have always sent in people, or have had things where they counter, even in a heavily infiltrated or in a dark system. They've always sent people that will throw a monkey wrench in these plans. So they will have freedom ideas put in place where obviously it would have been much easier for the dark not to have those. So there's always somebody who ruins their plans, okay? And so there are things that are standing, there are these pockets of freedom that are existing because of the light workers. Because the light workers have created these pockets, you know, where you can move somewhat freely. Like some countries are freer than others, despite what the dark had planned for the country. Lorraine, thank you. Can you tell us more about the other 11 incarnations of a light worker? how are these 11 people different from regular people with different essences, since we're all versions of each other? Me. So they are the same in that sense. We are all one. But this is even more so in the case of a light worker, because truly, even when we say that, for example, on your earth, we're going to be a collective, we feel each other, we are each other, we are all one, we're still going to have our own personalities. We're still going to have our own personal history in that sense. We're still going to be individuals in many ways. In this case, the 12,000, the 12 incarnations are not really individuals. They really are, it's almost like living past lives, but living them as we've been talking about. Everything's in the now. It's almost like you have lived 11 past lives that you remember, that you're aware of, that you were living them at the same time. That's all it is. It's you. And they were laughing. And I think they're laughing at my stance because I am so confused about all of this with the incarnations. It's going to be fascinating. And so you're going to incorporate all those lives that are being led by the other 11 like it's yours as part of you. And so the 12 incarnations have some points in common. And even from an individual perspective, as an individual person on your earth, you're just going to have this much more depth in terms of you have these extra lifetimes that you can draw from. So that's what we mean. Like you're going to look at the lives and the existences of these 11, which are no longer there as your own. So while you, Lorrayne, go to the earth and you're going to see your entire existence, you're going to be aware of everybody else's entire existence. You're going to know that was not your existence. That was not your experience, an experience that you were gathering from somebody else, but it was an experience that you were gathering from somebody else. But for a light worker, once they get to new earth, they're not going to be able to differentiate the existence of the other 11. They're just going to be one. And so they're going, it's almost like having an accelerated existence, your existence on this planet. You might have had 100 incarnations. Somebody else might have had 10 incarnations, and that's perfectly fine, doesn't matter. And they were laughing. I mean, these are just numbers. But these light workers, say that they had 10 each, all of a sudden, they're going to have 120 incarnations to draw from. That's all it is. It's almost like past lives, but they're not past. Again, they just happen to happen at the same time. Everything happens at the same time, really. But in this case, it very obviously happens at the same time. And so you realize it's you. This is stuff you already integrated because it's you. You went through it. Even though on planet Earth, it looks like somebody else went through it. I wonder if this stuff is as mind-boggling for you as it is for me. Oh my gosh. Who would have thought? If I'd sat here a year ago and figured that this stuff could be coming through, I would have been like, this is crazy. It's not even possible. But here we are discussing these concepts. Lorrayne, thank you. So what is the point of the light workers splitting into 12? What is the purpose that provides me? It's this acceleration. It's this project. If you come in with the goal of understanding something, how much more value are you going to have from the fact that you have 11 other people working on the same project, helping you understand something? Well, we all draw in general from each other's breakthroughs. The 12 are one already. They benefit. They feel each other even more than in a general sense. And they are able to draw from each 12 experiences. So it's acceleration. You are basically accelerating. It's like you could be living focused on one life, or you could be focusing on 100 at the same time. Which one is going to give you more lessons or experiences? It's the one where you have 100 lifetimes that you can draw from. And that's all. Light workers came in to understand and to do certain things. And because of this, they thought that it would be faster or easier to have multiple bodies they could use to split their essence basically into multiple bodies, so they could use it to grow faster. That's it. And again, no grow because they're getting better, but grow as in so they can go through experiences quicker because now you're exposed to 12 different ways of life as opposed to one. That's simply it. Lorrayne, more access to more data to help the process. Me, that is a great way of saying it. And I have to tell you something, guys. This is freaking me out a little bit, because you know how we know a lot of stuff, but we don't know until we actually focus on it. And we're like, oh, that makes sense now. So many times the 25th has said things where I'm like, oh, that's why I used to say that. Oh, that's why I used to feel that way. I'm sure this has happened to you as well. And they brought up many examples before. For example, when they say Claire has always said that time is a construct, time is not real. And of course, now they've explained to us that time is not real. Another thing is, every time they used, when we talked about this 12 people really being one, these other incarnations of me, they always talk about accelerated living, accelerated experience. And here's the weird thing that like just freaks me out. Anybody who knows me knows that's one of my favorite things to say. All I've always ever wanted in my life was acceleration. And I've always wanted accelerated living. In fact, one of the reasons I've been a jet setter, or I've traveled to a huge chunk of the world, is because nothing spells accelerated living. Like all of a sudden you go and experience all these other places that are completely different from these other cultures that are completely different from the place you come from. This is one reason I've been nomadic, very nomadic in my life. And it, to me, was always about learning more and more and more, faster, faster, more experiences, faster, faster. And the problem with that is, because most of us are going to feel that way. We go to New York, we're going to want to experience everything. The problem with that is that you risk burning yourself out to where you're like, okay, I've done all of that, right? For me, traveling doesn't hold the same, while I love it, doesn't hold the same attraction that it did in the past, for some reason that I have been to so many places. I'm like, the other places, how different can they possibly be? So that's the other side of the coin. But at the same time, again, it's fascinating to see that we know who we are. And then we get the explanation from the outside. I'm saying outside so we understand each other. It's really not outside the 25th, it's us. Okay, it's definitely inside. But say now we're getting the 25th explanation, like it's a third party confirming what we already always knew. So I know some of you are wondering, am I going to New York? Am I not going to New York? Whatever it is, you know it already. Look at the stuff you think about all the time. Look at the stuff you've always told yourself, even before you ran into this information on the 25th. You know what you're doing. You know yourself. So don't doubt yourself. We all know where we're going. We've been aligning with this for a long time. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.